Hello, my fellow creatives. Welcome, welcome. I am Imani the writer, and this is the Healing Creative Podcast, where I, a Black girl creative, take you along my healing journey. Feel free to join me. So, the creative thing, some creative updates. I decided to not pressure myself to actually do something creative while podcasting every single episode. Because sometimes the creative thing that I feel called to do that particular week, I can't do while podcasting. So what we'll do instead is we'll do creative updates. We'll do like a cute little accountability. I say that right? Accountability buddy thing. You know what I mean? Where I update you on some of the creative things that I've been up to in the past week. I do this like every Saturday. I podcast, and the goal is to have something up every week. So yeah, let's do that. I'll update you on what sorts of creative things that I've been up to. You guys do the same. Let me know. What have you been working on? And let's do that for each other. Because if you know that creativity is an important part of your healing, just as I know that for myself, then it's an important part of self-care to do that for ourselves, to create time and to create space. And I know life gets ahead of us. We've got jobs and everything like that. I got my job. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. But if creativity is such an important thing for your mental health and your emotional well-being, we got to make the time. So what sorts of creative things have I been up to lately? I've been working on a song, which is so much fun. Music is always something that I've kind of just like did here and there, but never really took seriously. I had the most fun with it when I was a kid, playing guitar, playing piano and everything like that. And I'd come up with little tunes and stuff, but I never fully made it into a song. And I think part of the reason why was because I was always just like really like intimidated by the music production process. I never learned it. I don't know if I ever will learn it. It is very daunting. And I never could afford like studio time and to have someone else take care of that for me. You know what I mean? But I do have a full-time job. So if that is something that I want to do, maybe it's something I can do in the future. But for now, I'm working on a song and my goal is to kind of just do the bare bones with it. Like just my voice, the guitar, Audacity, to keep it simple. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a freaking Beyonce album. You know what I'm saying? Like super, super produced and everything like that. It could just be my voice and the guitar and just having fun with that. And one thing, I'll try to keep a note of this and to put it in the description box for you guys. I discovered an app, SingScope. That's what it's called. It's been really helpful because again, I'm definitely not an expert with any of this music stuff. I'm just having fun, you know what I mean? But there would be like, I'll have an idea in my head about a melody that I would like to play on my guitar, but I don't know what the notes are. So using the app SingScope, this is not sponsored, by the way. Using the app SingScope, you can hum that melody into your phone and it will tell you what the notes are. And that has been so helpful for me because once I figure out what those notes are, I have a diagram of the guitar fretboard and I can just kind of piece together how I can play those notes in the way that I pictured in my mind's eye, how I can actually make that come to life. So that's been really helpful. The app is called SingScope. I'll link it in the description on YouTube. But for anybody listening, check it out. It's really, really great. I have been really enjoying the whole process of it. And I also use just a random piano app on my phone to just double check to make sure the notes sound the way that I imagine that they sound. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, I just mess around until I find the specific key that I'm looking for. But if you do check it out, let me know how it works out for you in the comments. Super excited for that. All right. I am podcasting from my bed today, actually, because I'm on my period. And this is the kind of day we're having. I'm just I actually set up to film this. Not only podcasting audio, but visually, I was going to make a video so you can see me and everything. I did that for 10 minutes and I was just nah, I need to be in the bed. I am cramping up. I need to be comfortable. I need to be relaxed. That's what I need right now. I'm starting to feel like podcasting might be the thing for me because I really just love not having to worry about how I look. Like, I know that I'm beautiful, but it's just an extra step, and then to appear precise and pristine. And it's just like, nah, just talk. Just talk into the mic. It's fine. And I love that I now discovered that I can do this from bed. Like, oof, I'm going to be podcasting a lot more now. Like, I love this. This is going to be a weekly thing, especially since I know it's so easy. It's just my laptop and the mic. This is so nice. I love this. I love experimenting with content creation and finding something that I enjoy. But yeah, the topic of today is really fitting given that I'm on my period, because when I'm on my period, I feel a lot more than usual. I'm in good spirits today, but usually my symptoms are that I'm just like, obviously I experience cramps. I get really, really tired and really, really drained. I walk a lot slower. I just move a lot slower just because I'm tired. But I also just feel my emotions a lot more. So if I'm happy, I'm really happy. But if I'm sad, I'm really sad. And if I'm angry, I am really pissed. Right? So the topic of today's podcast episode is really fitting because we're going to be talking about ugly emotions today. These are the emotions that you're too ashamed to share with others because society makes you feel wrong for having them. These are the emotions that you know other people would judge you for having. You know that they would come to conclusions about your character. And these are the emotions that scare you the most because what scares us is the possibility that those judgments that other people would have against you, maybe there might be a little bit of truth in them. Maybe they're right. And that makes us feel bad about ourselves. So what most of the time we do with our very, very ugly emotions that we're just like, oof, when I look back on that, that was a really toxic thought. That was a really toxic thing that happened just now. But we tend to shove them inside and to shoo them away because they're ugly, because they're uncomfortable, because they're just not attractive emotions. They're just not. They're not pretty tears that trickle down. You know what I mean? They're just like raw, ugly, and just real feelings that not everybody's ready for, you know? Some of my most common ugly emotions are anger, rage, disgust, disdain, contempt. And the one that I feel the most shame around is envy. Now, some of these emotions aren't ugly all the time in my eyes. Sometimes I just know I have the right to feel all of those feelings because the other person is in the wrong or because of whatever situation is happening. But I call them ugly emotions because sometimes those emotions pop up in ways that I know other people would be like, girl, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Or sometimes they pop up in situations that where most people would be happy. Like a situation, I don't know, like you see someone who is getting something or achieving something that they worked very hard on. And while everyone else is happy for them, you are not. Or something that they didn't have to work on, whatever. The point is, it's an emotion that other people wouldn't expect from you and other people would reject you for having. Envy is the biggest one for me, for sure. The other ones, not so much. But these for sure are my most common ugly emotions. Feeling these emotions around topics that other people think are fine, happy, and joyous oftentimes has a way of making me feel like there's something wrong with me for having the emotions in the first place. I already know that there are people who would think that and who would say that if I actually expressed it out loud. So it's hard for me to not believe that, oh, that was not a pretty moment for me. Luckily, I don't typically express those emotions. I don't talk about them with people. And I know a lot of people are the same way because we feel a lot of shame around those feelings. Not to mention that some of those emotions that I literally just listed as my most common ugly emotions are actual sins in the Bible. So people will be with a quickness, they will tell you that you don't have the right to feel that way because it is an actual sin. Now, and that's why it's so important to have your own relationship with God. It is. The more people involved with my relationship with God, the messier it becomes. You have to have one-on-one talks with your Heavenly Father. Because it is through that I learned and realized that the emotion isn't the sin, it's acting in those emotions that can cause harm, and that's not okay. But I know myself, and I know that that's not what I typically do. When I feel ugly emotions, it's not typically my nature to go out and lash out and hurt others. My first instinct is to hurt myself and to speak meanly and just not in a kind way to myself. There are a few areas in my life where my ugliest emotions tend to bubble up the most. Not so much recently since I got this new job, but I definitely have experienced a lot of envy and a lot of those emotions around like feeling left behind in my career, feeling left behind in experiences, romantic experiences that other people my age or might be experiencing. Those areas in particular. And those tend to be the areas we put the most value in our society. It's like how much money you're making, what you're doing, and your relationship status. These are the things that people pay the most attention to. So when you feel behind in those areas, it can make you feel really insecure. And that's when your ugly emotions start bubbling out more often in the areas that you feel insecure in. You relate to anything that I am saying right now. If you've felt these emotions and you knew and you felt that they were ugly emotions for you to have, that they were toxic emotions for you to have. And not so much in the emotions themselves, because sometimes, again, you know that you are well within your rights to feel however you feel. But sometimes you also know that it's just like, ooh, maybe I don't have the right to feel that way. So why do I? What's going on here? Sometimes you know that, ooh, if I said this to a friend, if I said this out loud, it would not be okay. I would not be regarded well. People would judge me. People would criticize me. So I'm not going to speak up. And I'm just going to push it aside and ignore it. If you've ever felt that way before, if you feel a lot of shame around an emotion that you thought you were feeling that was ugly, that was toxic, I want you to know that you're not alone. You know that I know exactly what that's like. I know what it's like to keep certain things to yourself because it just feels like an unattractive and very ugly and very toxic thing to express out loud that that's what you're feeling, but that's how you're feeling. And we can't always control how we're feeling or why we feel the way that we feel. So it makes us feel like, oh, there might be something wrong with us inherently. I know that feeling. And if that's what you're feeling, I want you to know that that's okay, that you are okay. I completely validate you as a human being, and I validate that frustration that comes with feeling a lot of shame around our ugly emotions and not quite knowing what to do with them sometimes. I want to take some pressure off of you right now. I want to take some pressure off of myself as well. We do not need to ruminate in that shame, especially if you're a lot like me. And again, you don't speak these emotions, you don't let them show because you know what people would say. So you keep it inside and you don't lash out or treat people poorly because of those emotions. You kind of just combust internally. But we don't have to ruminate in that shame. Because again, this is just all happening internally. Nobody's watching you. Nobody's judging you right now. You can let that shame go. You can know that no one is judging you. That in fact, you are listening to a person that completely understands you, that sees you, that hears you, that feels you. You're listening to a person that's got your back right now. Because I do. I'm here to support myself through this as any friend would, because it's important to be a good friend to yourself as you would to others. But I also would like to support you through that process in the way that I can, because that's what healing looks like. You know, it's not pretty all the time. It's not picturesque. It's not always aesthetic. Sometimes it is ugly, but that doesn't make it not healing. Ugly healing is still healing, and it's still important, and it's still beautiful in its own way. So I'm here for you in this moment, just as I'm here for myself in this moment. And I want to talk about what we can do about our ugly emotions, about the emotions that we feel too much shame to share with others because we know what they're going to say. And this is not me pressuring you to share those emotions. I'm talking about the things that you can do besides sharing, because you may not be ready to share. I'm not always ready to share, but this is what we can do instead to kind of work through them. Now, I am not a mental health professional. Please, you guys. I am just a girl on the internet. And even if I was a mental health professional, you can't just trust every mental health professional. You always got to have a second opinion. You always have to have nuance. You know what I mean? So use your discernment, okay? And take what resonates. Whatever doesn't, leave it alone. You don't have to take it. But I hope that one of the things, if not all of the things, can be things that can help you, because they have helped me immensely. So here are some things that helped me deal with my ugly emotions. First and foremost, radical acceptance, bitch. Yeah, you're feeling an ugly emotion right now. So what? I literally have to say that to myself. Like, yeah, that's an ugly feeling. That is an ugly thought. So what? I am a good person, a great person, a kind person, a beautiful, wonderful person. 99.99999% of the time, bitch. Like, you're allowed to have some bitchy feelings every now and then. You are. Especially if you know that you're not lashing out on anyone, that you're not hurting anyone, that you're not treating other people poorly. If you have the self-control to rein it back in and to see it as an opportunity to do some inner healing, which you already are doing simply by listening. And I know that I'm doing simply by talking about it and journaling about it. I recently had a moment where something happened and I immediately felt like all of my ugly emotions all at once to the max. We're talking literally yesterday. And it was just like, and I was at work. I was physically in the office. It's not something that happened at work with coworkers, but it's just something happened and I heard about it while I was at work. And I had to go back. Like, I was on my lunch break and it was just like, I had to go back. I had to go back to the office. I had to go back to being productive. Luckily, I didn't have any calls or anything else that needed to necessarily be done that day. The rest of the day was just me working on my laptop on the various other work-related tasks that I have on my own time. But it was just like, I'm at work. I can't do what I normally did before whenever I have these ugly emotions. I don't have the privacy and the space to just let them out in healthy but expressive ways that I could when I'm at home. I was at work. So it's just like, what can I do? And I went through this list that I'm about to share with you. And it was so beautiful and impactful, the impact that I was able to just feel better so fast, quicker than I ever have before. Like my turnaround time when it comes to feeling out those negative emotions and then letting them pass, it's never been that fast before. That was a record. And I was able to continue working and really enjoy the rest of my day and have a great day. And then I went out and hung out with a friend afterwards. I had a wonderful day after that, and it didn't sabotage my entire day. And I'm super proud of myself for that process. But the first step was radical acceptance. Yeah, this is a bitchy thought in my mind right now, and I don't like it. And I know that if I were to share it, I would probably be judged. But you know what? I'm allowed to have a few feelings like that. I'm allowed to have a few thoughts like that. Those thoughts and feelings alone don't define me. They just are what they are. I'm a good person all the time. I can be a bitch for a day. Especially if I'm not actually being a bitch to anybody. I'm just being a bitch in my own head. Like, it's not actually harming anyone. But yeah, first step, radical acceptance. The next thing, channel it. You're listening to this podcast most likely because you are creative. So use your ugly emotions and channel it into something creative. And make sure that whatever it is, it's a productive and healthy outlet for you that doesn't hurt others or yourself. Ask yourself how you can tap into this emotion in a creative way. How can, in a productive way, how can you create something out of it that's not going to hurt yourself and that's not going to hurt anyone else? While I was at work, my thing was journaling. And I just wrote out all my thoughts and emotions, and it actually became the outline for this very podcast episode. So all those negative feelings that I felt, as ugly as they are the inspiration for something beautiful that's happening right now. And I'm actually really fucking grateful for that. And that makes me feel better as a human being about those ugly emotions. Like I really am allowed to not be fucking perfect. I really am. And I can still be beautiful, and I can still use even the ugliest parts of me, even the most toxic, not okay, unhealed, trauma-filled parts of me, to create something that can help others and myself. And that's meaningful and beautiful. So that's the next step. Channeling it. You can also just take a minute to listen to those ugly feelings, because the thing is, emotions are just information. I keep using ugly emotions. The truth is, there is no such thing as an ugly emotion. There's no such thing as bad emotions, good or bad. There's just comfortable and uncomfortable, right? Your uncomfortable emotion is just trying to tell you something very important, something that you cannot keep pushing away. It's trying to tell you, it's trying to bring something important to your attention. It's trying to tell you that there's something that you need, something in your heart that you need that isn't a need that's not being fulfilled right now. Take a minute to ask yourself what that is. In my journaling, I did that yesterday. And I came to realize that this ugly emotion that I'm feeling is just a sign that there are several things that I need. And that could be time, that could be space, that could be reassurance, it could be confidence. I need to build my confidence in something. I need to be more self-compassionate. I need to be amongst loving friends. Right now, I need to rest. Dig deep and think about the thing that you need, that this emotion is trying to tell you that you need. Don't ignore it. Don't push it away. It's there for a reason. The next thing is radical honesty. It kind of goes back into listening before, but like radical honesty in two different ways. First off, you have to be honest about what you think these emotions mean about you. You can write this down and like as a journal prompt. I wrote it down as a journal prompt to keep for myself in certain moments when these insecurities kind of bubble up. I write down, what do I think these emotions mean about me and my character? And this is when my inner critic comes out. This is where I talk about all the things that I'm deeply scared other people will think if they knew that this is how I truly feel. Get it all out of your head. Be honest about all the things you're scared of people saying about you, all the things you're scared about people judging you and coming to conclusions about you. Get it all out and then sit back for a minute and be like, okay, this is what I think these emotions mean, but what do they actually mean about me? That's the next journal prompt. What do these emotions actually mean about me? And this is where you are to be more realistic, more empathetic, come from a more grounded place. For example, like I might think that the emotion of envy just means that I am this pathetic, jealous woman and that I'm just looking at all these other women around me and I'm just jealous about everything that they have that I don't have, and that everything that they could be that I could never, because I know that I can't do shit because I'm not pretty, because I'm not this, because I'm not that and the third, and that I never will be those things, and that I'm just pathetic. Those are the things I think these emotions, the emotion of envy means about me in a lot of crazy moments, right? That's what my inner critic says. That's what other critics have said about other people. Envy is one of those emotions, or jealousy, that people just immediately jump to. Oh, you're just jealous. You're just jealous because you're not as good as her. You're just jealous because you're not this, that, and the third, and you never will be. And that makes you feel ugly when people say those kinds of things to you. Like you're less of a human being. But a lot of times, when I actually sat down and did my journaling yesterday too, but at other times as well, sometimes the emotions actually mean that you're scared or that you're nervous or that you feel alone or that you feel abandoned, left behind. Sometimes the emotion means that you are afraid for the future. Sometimes you're afraid of what your past means about you and your future. You're afraid that the mistakes that you made before define you forever. You're afraid that because something never happened for you before, that it never will. Sometimes it's just fear. Sometimes you're just afraid. And that part of you that's afraid, that's your inner child. Your inner child is allowed to be afraid. You would never judge a baby for being scared of something scary. It doesn't mean that you're this awful fucking person. Sometimes you're scared. Sometimes you're lonely. Sometimes you're sad. Sometimes you feel less than, and that's where these emotions are coming from. And you're not evil for that. Take this as an opportunity to show yourself some empathy. Give yourself a little bit of a break, you know? The inner critic, the outer critic is just a critic. And critics talk, but they never do. They're never actually about anything, right? Everyone's a critic. Everyone can talk their mouth off about anything that they don't like, but they don't actually get up and do the damn things themselves. Critics just talk, but they're not about anything. But that's what radical honesty is about. What do you think these emotions mean about you? And then what do they actually mean about you? The next thing is to take baby steps. Think about what the smallest, easiest thing you can do to address the root of that ugly emotion that you're feeling. Because now you finally discovered what the root is. That's what the previous step was about. Discovering what the true root of the emotion is. Now, you may not be able to necessarily solve it all right away, all right at once, but you can do something, even if it's something so as I can just let myself rest today. Yesterday for me, the root of it was a list of fears that I had about myself, about my past, about my present, about my future. And the smallest, easiest thing that I can do, because I can't get rid of these fears just all at once like that forever. You know what I mean? But what I can do is be brave and face them right now. I made a list of all the things that I was afraid for my future. And I thought, okay, if it happened tomorrow, what would we do? And I wrote down what I would do. And then it's like, okay, we know what we would do. If these fears come to light, we know how we would handle it. And we trust that we would handle it well, that we'll adapt, roll with the punches, and figure out a way to find joy and happiness again. That doesn't mean I'm no longer afraid of those things, but it means that because I can face them today, I know that if those fears ever bubble up again, I can face them again that day. Any day. Every day. And I'm proud that I can do that. I'm proud that I showed myself that I could do that. And it was simple. It was something as simple as writing a list in my journal, all the things that I genuinely felt afraid of, and just thought to myself, if it happened tomorrow, what would you do? And now it's just like, okay, if it happens, this is what you'll do. I'm still scared that it'll happen, but if it happens, I know what I'll do, and I know that I can do it. And that I can face it. That is such a huge, huge win for me. And it was small. You have to look at your situation and kind of adapt it to yours. Maybe the root emotion behind that ugly emotion isn't fear like it was for me, but it could be something else for you. You have to find it and think to yourself, what's the smallest action you can take? If it's something as small as just writing something down in your notebook, or taking a breath, saying an affirmation, saying to yourself, I am okay. In this moment, I am okay. And even though I'm scared or even though I'm anxious, I trust one way or another that I will be okay. Whatever small thing you can do, the smallest, simplest act, do it. That is a win. The next step would be also to let it come and let it pass. And I'm talking about the ugly emotion. Just let it come and let it pass. There's an app. Let me pull it up on my phone. How We Feel. It's basically just an emotion tracker. But they also have little video trainings that you can watch depending on the emotion that you logged that you had in that moment on that day. But One of the things that I learned from using the app is this concept that emotions are like the weather. They always change. You don't have to bury them because they'll pass, just like rain, just like snow. The weather is going to change at some point. Just let it pass. You don't have to control it. You don't have to bury your feelings. You don't have to bottle them away. You can just let them come, let them be, accept them as they are, and they will naturally pass. That doesn't mean they won't come up again, which is annoying. Just because the rain came and went doesn't mean it won't rain ever again, but it's always going to pass. And happy feelings, happy emotions, joy, peace will be restored again. It's important to remember that. This is the last step. I should have numbered them or something. I should have had some more organization with this whole process. Don't forget to celebrate your growth. Every time you go through these steps, log it somehow so that you remember and pay attention to how you grow and shift in the process. Years ago, just like 2 years ago, I would have never imagined that I could have something akin to like a rage-filled episode while I was on my lunch break, and to be able to just go and sit back at my desk and write and go through this list and create the list and go through all these feelings and go through all these emotions and then come back to center and actually be happy for the rest of the day. That's never been me. I am super highly sensitive. I'm a very feeling person, even though I'm very grounded, but I feel my emotions a lot and I feel them very internally. I'm comfortable being emotionally vulnerable, but sometimes even that's a bit too much for me. And sometimes things can get a little self-destructive and nobody would know from the outside looking in. But doing that, just writing them all out and taking and tapping into those feelings and channeling into an outline for a podcast episode that's so brilliantly healing for me, and having such a quicker, faster turnaround from having emotions and ugly emotions like that, that is just a new height for me. It is such a huge sign of growth. And it's an amazing accomplishment because I know that if I could do that on the fly without even really having any resource to help me, it was just like, just take out your notebook and just write. I can't do anything with these feelings because I'm just so angry and I'm just so pissed. So all I could do is take out the notebook and write. And I just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote until I just felt light again. And in that process, discovering wisdom to help me in the future and turning it into something creative that I can share with everyone here. Like, that is a new frontier. And I know that if I could do it once without even knowing, without even thinking, without planning for it, I know that I can do it again. And my turnaround time next time will probably be faster. And I could probably get back to center a lot quicker and heal those very real fears inch by inch until they completely disappear. I felt so much hope after doing this practice. I feel so much hope now. I really, really hope also that you resonate with something that I said today. Even if you don't necessarily do all the steps that I mentioned, I hope at least one of the steps was helpful for you on your healing journey. I hope this podcast is helpful to you in some way, shape, or form on your healing and your creative journey. Comment down below what resonated with you. If anything did resonate with you, let me know. But yeah, I think I'm going to cut it here. This was such a beautiful podcast episode to create. I feel amazing now. I love that I'm just in my bed all snuggled up and just reflecting on how I turn the ugliest, most triggering, toxic parts of me into something that I can be proud of. Something that used to bring me so much shame, and I turned it and used it for my good and hopefully for others as well. After this, I'm going to rest. And I'm going to rest cheerfully with a smile on my face because doing this has brought me so much peace. Thank you for listening. I'm super, super glad that you were here for this very beautiful moment. I hope that you subscribe to the podcast. I hope you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube, and continue to follow along on my healing journey as I continue just sharing what works for me. Let me know what works for you. And until next time, take care. Have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your day.